So, I was scrolling Tumblr, one of the best social media platforms, when I came across a post from Catmask, aka 4-Leaf Island. Behold said post. Essentially, they are hosting a design competition together with frogcroaks, and my fingers just itched to get started. I'm currently in my pink era, so it was easy to settle into Wisteria Will-O-Wisp for my theme. I start with a rough conceptualization here. I knew I wanted to make a creature based off of an enchanted mirror, sort of mimic-esque. As I started sketching it out with the spikes that flatten into the mirror, I was inspired by the serpentine, thinking it would go well with swirls and intricate details later on in the process. It was feeling a little bland, so I added some fabric neatly folded along the body to mimic curtains. I start working on the head more. I think about the enchanted mirror from Snow White and how the queen was the one who used it, and tried to make the head look like it is wearing a crown to mimic that. I sketch out what I imagine it will look like transformed, and I'm feeling that the shapes are off. The head adding a second mirror with ears isn't really working, so I go back and rework the head. Now with a concept down, I work on developing the creature with some poses. I start off with a standing pose before changing it to be sitting with its back facing the camera. While I sketched this section, I decided to make the curtains more like wings, and placed one of them outstretched behind it. I draw its tail curled in front of it, trying to sneak in some soft shapes to make it feel more like a good creature. The spikes along its back are flattened to help it look the part. I get to working on its transformed form, and again start off with a circle to help the trickery aspect of this character. I want it to look like an enchanted mirror, but also with something where, if this was a Dungeons & Dragons game and you rolled a high enough perception check, you notice something was amiss. Now watch me as I struggle through several iterations trying to find a pose where I can show off the character more. At this point I had pretty much settled on the lore around the creature. It's a draconic creature which takes the shape of a mirror. It's inspired by the enchanted mirror from Snow White, but also from the legend of the Snow Queen, who had a mirror where if you looked into it, you'd only see the ugly aspects of the world, as a sort of trick. I thought it would be cool if the dragon would offer a piece of its hide, of its mirror, to whoever approach it, and tell them that they can see a glimpse of their future by looking into the shard. The Wisteria theme plays in here too as a gorgeously pretty tree, yet it's very harmful if eaten, and the lore around the Will-O-Wisp, where they lead you on to your quote-unquote destiny. But it's all a plot. This creature is pretending to offer a glimpse of the future, but in return, it steals it from you. After a lot of iterations, all which felt too humanoid or uncharacteristic, I finally landed on this flying pose where the dragon curls around the shard it's offering. It hides its spiky back, its true nature, and offers only the softer aspects of itself. I start the lining process here, and I make sure to make the scales on the dragon spiky to again play with the idea of shape language. Also, you may have noticed it earlier, but I went back and changed the sitting pose to have curled up wings resembling a more curtain shape, since the big full body pose has the wings outstretched. I gave the dragon gem eyes. Originally, I was only planning on 2 eyes, but the third eye plays into the whole future aspect, so it received a pupil as well. I added shards to the sitting pose too, feeling that they fit perfectly in its tail. After I finished lining, I went to the layout of the page. I intended it to be a reference for the creature, so I start to gather some information. I also made a very, poem. Disclaimer, I am not a poet, but I think it could be like the legend warning about the dangers of the enchanted mirror. Wisteria of beauty, its seed will make you decay. While the west of promising leads you astray, your body and your mind, they have been undermined. A mirror of futures in shards that gleam bright, but if you should take one, you'll lose to the night. Your dreams and your soul is now under my control. At this point, I feel my lore is pretty settled, and go for the coloring. I take the colors from the theme drawing from the competition and add in a couple other colors I imagine fits nicely together with the light blue, pink, and purple. I make the curtains into bisexual colors, and start adding in the gold to mimic a fancy mirror. I color the eyes, and at this point I realize the pink and purple wings aren't working. The gradient isn't really what fits the character best, so I go and look at some fancy curtains and decide I need to go darker. I make them fully purple, and at this point I realize I can take some color inspiration from Frostbite. Don't worry, I'm not gonna show that one off in the inspirations, but essentially I decide to go for purple with the tips frosted over, cracks forming, and the purple then transitions to a dirty patchy black towards the body. I start working on the gold-colored scales and shade them in, feeling that they no longer fit entirely with the color scheme. I still try to make it work, because gold is usually always associated with fancy intricate mirrors. However, as you can see me playing with the saturation, I realize I can make it oxidized gold instead of pure gold. Oxidized gold turns black and tarnished, so I simply made all of the gold dark grey, and it was an instant hit with the other colors. I work on rendering the full body flying pose, adding in scales and shadows. I polish up the wings before adding shadows, then I work on the last details, adding some glow and effects on the wings, before I go back and reformat the reference a little. And behold, my critter for catmask and frogcroaks competition. I really tried to come up with a fitting name for the creature, so if you have any ideas, feel free to comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Maybe I should call it Shirley in the meantime. Thanks for watching, and have a great one.